Alright, class. Today we are going to be talking about winter backpacking. So I have hiked through 2 winters, or 1.5. One of those winters was in the eastern portion of the United States, like mid-Atlantic, Delaware, Maryland, West Virginia, and then this is when I was hiking across America, and then I hit winter again in, I think Nevada. So yeah, Nevada and California. There are some unique challenges to winter backpacking that I think wouldn't be particularly obvious if you've never done it before. But I am here to fill you in, my friend. So grab your notebook, take notes if you're going to be doing this. This one isn't really too important, but it'll make your day much nicer if you do it. Take your breaks at the bottom of a hill instead of at the top of the hill. As hikers, we almost always take the break at the top of the hill because we just achieved that hill. It was difficult, and it just seems like a great break point, a nice spot to rest. The problem is, in the winter, it's so cold that you're probably only going to be able to take a break for a couple minutes, and then you're going to be too cold to stay still, so you want to start moving and heat back up. So if you take a break at the top of a hill and you do that, you're immediately going to be going downhill or flat afterwards, and it's not going to heat you up very quickly. But if you take it at the bottom of the hill, and then you have to go up immediately after the break, then you get heated up really quickly, and you get back into the groove, no problem. You don't have to have a few minutes of discomfort. So that'll just keep you much more comfortable throughout your day. So that's just a little tip for the hiking aspect of it. Now, number 2, you're going to want to sleep with your water either next to you or inside of your sleeping bag if it gets below freezing. I usually keep it just next to me. I found that if it's in the 20s or so, that usually my body heat will keep 2 or 3 bottles next to me from freezing. If it's much colder than that, then you're going to want to just put them inside your sleeping bag with you to keep them from freezing. Just make sure they're screwed on really tight and there's no way that they can leak onto you, because that could be deadly if it's extremely cold. So just be very careful about that, and maybe even put them in a dry bag inside your sleeping bag. But yeah, you don't want to wake up to 3 bottles of frozen water, because they're not going to melt. It's not going to heat up really quickly in the winter, and they're useless essentially. So number 3, don't over layer in your sleeping bag. You will sweat. You want to start minimal and add as needed. Pretty simple. I would say start out in your underwear inside your sleeping bag, and if you're still cold, put on socks and a beanie. If you're still cold, put on some more layers, or a sleeping bag liner if you have that on standby. But I started out winter backpacking with all the layers and a sleeping bag liner and a 0-degree bag, and I found that I wasn't keeping warm on like 30-degree nights, but that's because I was over layering, and without realizing it, I was sweating a little bit, and the air hitting that sweat just made me feel super cold, but not like I was wet. I never realized that I was sweating. Number 4, use vapor barriers for hiking through snow, even with snowshoes. A vapor barrier is just anything to keep the cold water from getting to your feet, because it's going to soak through your boots or shoes, even if they're waterproof. So I have used Ziploc in a pinch. You can also use bread bags or grocery bags. And I have a friend who swears by Sealskins socks. That's Sealskins with a Z at the end. He says they work even better. So that's something to consider. Just make sure you have some sort of vapor barrier, because otherwise when you're hiking through the snow, your feet will freeze. It will get extremely cold and you risk like frostbite and nasty stuff. So just make sure to use that and you should be good. Number 5, use snowshoes or cross-country skis to get through painfully deep snow. When I was hiking through Dolly Sods in West Virginia, there were 6 to 8 foot snow drifts, and so in order to even get through it at all, I had to use snowshoes. It would have just been, I mean, I probably could have gotten through it had I not used snowshoes, but it would have taken more than twice as long, and it would be really miserable trying to climb through those very soft, powdery 6 to 8 foot snow drifts. I've gotten a lot of questions about why snowshoes even work, like what's good about them. So if you don't know, just real quick, the whole point is that you have a bigger surface area, and because you have that bigger surface area, you're less likely to sink into the ground. So you don't sink down as far. You only sink in like 4 inches or so, max, typically. And then you only use cross-country skis if you have experience skiing and you feel confident. I've never skied, so I'm not going to recommend that you hop on some skis. Also, when I was hiking through Dolly Sods, I exited on a ski slope. All right. Oh my God. I thought this was a road. It's a ski slope. Woo! So I would have had to know how to ski at that point if I was wearing them, but I was wearing snowshoes. Number 6, remove your insoles at night and put them in your sleeping bag, inside of a plastic bag, of course, to avoid freezing. Or you can put your boots or shoes in there if they will fit. Yeah, there's nothing worse than putting on a pair of frozen boots or shoes in the morning, especially if you've been sweating a lot the day before. So, and all that just froze and it's just icy blocks on your feet. It's extremely uncomfortable. I remember doing that several times when I was hiking across America, and it sucked. It's not worth it. But I found that just removing the insoles were enough to keep me from having a miserable experience in the morning. I didn't really find the need to put my boots in the sleeping bag, but ideally it would be better because the whole boot would be warm. But I found that, you know, just doing the insoles is perfectly enough for me. Number 7, use micro spikes for icy surfaces. Typically micro spikes are going to be used in like springtime in the mountains where there's old snow that gets icy, but I found them like very necessary even in the wintertime for road walking. If there's icy streets, it comes in very handy. Even on snowy trails, the snow will melt and then freeze over at night, and you'll just have an icy layer that you have to walk in even in the winter. So I definitely recommend having some micro spikes, but you can get by without them. I lost mine at one point, so I had to get by without them, and I made it through, slipping and sliding and all. Number 8, keep batteries on you at all times to keep them warm. Some batteries are going to be easier to diminish the power with cold temperatures, and some aren't, so you should probably test it out. Just if you have different cameras, I would say charge them all up fully and then leave them out in the cold overnight, or just put them in the freezer overnight and see how they do as far as retaining their power, because my Canon batteries tend to do really well. Even the aftermarket off-brand batteries for my Canon camera, they still do pretty well with cold weather. But GoPro batteries and all the aftermarket batteries for the GoPro, they all drain really quickly in cold weather. So I always have to keep those on me. I usually keep them in my breast pocket of my fleece, but just keep them close to your body to keep them warm at all times. Like, it just being on the pouch of your backpack is not enough. It needs to be close to your body. So my phone doesn't seem to drain very fast with cold weather either, so just experiment with your electronics to see which drains fast in cold weather and keep that like on your person at all times. Number 9, I recommend a sleeping pad with an R value of 5 or higher. An R value is just a rating for how much it insulates you and keeps your heat from going through into the ground. I'd usually just use a closed cell foam pad like Thermarest, Ridgerest, or Z-Lite, and I just put a sheet of Reflectix over that. Now the foam pad by itself, the say Z-Lite for example, it's only going to be R value of 2, but Reflectix, it adds quite a bit. I don't know how much it adds. On paper, I don't think it's that much, but in reality, it works out for me down to like 0 degrees. So I highly recommend you try that. It might not be enough for you, but it was enough for me in a blizzard in Grand Mesa when I was stuck there during a pretty crazy snowstorm. That's all I had, just the ridge rests, and as far as the sleeping pad goes, the ridge rests and then a sheet of Reflectix over it. The only bad thing about Reflectix is that it will wear off with time. The reflective part of it, it'll just come off and it'll turn into bubble wrap basically. So you have to replace that, I don't know, if you're through hiking every so often. But it's worth it. And it's much cheaper than getting an air pad that could pop on you. That's another thing to consider is air pads. They make some great ones for winter weather, but they are vulnerable to being punctured or the valve failing. I mean, this is the most comfortable, the warmest, but there is the price you have to pay of them being vulnerable. So you decide what is your preference, and that's pretty much it for now. If you want to learn from all of my mistakes in winter backpacking, you can pick up my book about my hike across America. It's called Fruits of the Unknown. I kept a journey of the trip along the way, and I made that into a book. And then at the end, I have all the most valuable lessons that I learned throughout the journey, just kind of distilled and clearly articulated at the end. It helps me out a lot if you order those. I get half of the money, the publisher gets the other half, and it helps keep this channel going and keeps me making videos and going on crazy adventures. If you'd like to support my channel, you can also join my Patreon. That is where, for a monthly amount that you pledge, you get certain rewards in return, like early access to videos, photo prints, and more. I'm actually trying to think of some different rewards to offer people, so if you have any ideas, let me know. That's pretty much all I have for now. Goodbye.